morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of our viewers for Unresolved Textual Tension. I'm Katie. Today, I will be your host along with my handsome bitch, William.
Because she didn't call me regularly handsome, which we all know I am, I'm going to ask her, why are you wearing a table napkin over your shoulders with a hole in the middle for your head? And did anybody else catch that there was a hole in her armpit when she raised her
I.
arms?
Oh, there is.
All right, the book we're doing
Oh,
today is the
no.
book we're doing today is "The River Has Roots" by. I'm going to let Katie choose the author's name because I
Oh, yeah, sure.
can't.
Give me 1 second.
She looked up actual facts. She did research, so I'm assuming she knew how to pronounce the
I did,
author's
but
name.
where's my freaking.
You just put it on the desk.
No, my phone.
Oh, your phone.
Oh, it's right here.
Oh my god.
Apologies.
You know the shirt in Seinfeld where they had like the romance Renaissance shirt?
Yeah,
Katie was
yeah.
like, "Oh, I didn't know they sold merch of that."
Shut up. It's by. We are reading "The River Has Roots" by Amal El-Mohtar. I think the correct pronunciation for the last name is Mohtar. So Amal El-Mohtar.
Who I will be referring to as the author from this point forward. The River Has Roots is kind of interesting. It's more of a short story. This was picked by our book club. I think everybody wanted to do something shorter than the longer books we tend to do. And it's kind of not necessarily a specific fairy tale retelling, but in the fairy tale retelling genre. It has fairies in it, and a fairyland, and like two sisters. So it's kind of archetypal in that sense.
There's two big stories that it draws from in particular that I've noticed anyway, and also stated by the author. One is the two sisters, also known as the Cruel Sisters, which is the general like genre of old like fairy tale mode. There is a genre called the Cruel Sisters, and within the Cruel Sisters there are many tales of the two sisters, and the two sisters is where it's heavily taken from, along with, honestly, she didn't say this in her interview, but she obviously takes a ton from Tamlin, because there's a whole scene that's based off Tamlin. And Tamlin is one of the few like ballads that I like know really well. I don't know a ton of ballads really well. I just enjoy listening to them. But Tamlin, it has a special place in my heart because I think it's one of the first ballads I ever came across. And also I really like the lesson. I guess
Yeah,
it's not really a lesson.
I really
What.
liked him in ACOTAR too. He was like a character that I thought was like, oh, that's interesting. She was able to come up with that on her own. It's so creative.
Give me one moment, please. Just un moment. Well, actually, let's continue introducing.
I'll do the plot. Yes. So
I would like to go back to Tamlin at some point, just so that
we
way
will
people
go
understand what I'm saying.
definitely because this will probably be a little bit on the shorter side because this is a short story. Okay, so this story is about two sisters, and it starts on a talk about grammar. So immediately I
Oh,
was like, oh, my
I
least
love
favorite
it.
topic in the world.
Oh my
Um,
god.
I still don't understand how commas are used, and I don't think I ever will.
That
I'm okay
doesn't
with that.
matter for the story. The story's mode and the analogy using grammar, or I should say metaphor, really. The metaphor of grammar for magic in this is, oh my gosh, delicious steak.
I will say this book is very kind of melodic and rolling and poetic. I think is the way people are referencing it. It's not that I dislike this story, but like it did not have the magic for me. I was like, oh, this is kind of pretty, but that's about all I felt about it. I kind of had the feeling that if I were to chew more onto the actual prose of it, I'd find it to be maybe a little purple at times, but I can't really say because I listened to this. Which some people like music in their books, audiobooks,
Well,
and
I
people
also
who like
don't think
music in their audiobooks are
I would
wrong.
argue and say it doesn't quite hit purple at all. I can see why you think that because when you listen to the audiobook, it feels purple prose. Because the audiobook is a very unique experience. They have both
That's one
distracting.
word for it.
Well, so in the audiobook, which is what I listened to, but I just bought the physical copy of the book because I'd like to read it separately, and I am curious on the
We
effect
should
it
go
would
over it
have
for
on
a
me.
critique string, which I'll explain in a moment to all of you. Go
Yes.
ahead.
But that being said, in the audiobook, there are a lot of audio special effects, meaning like the sound of water or the rustling of trees, or in this case, what I found the most distracting, but also one of the more beautiful, but it was very distracting during the narration, was the singing, because singing has a huge purpose in this book. And as much as I loved how it set the tone and how it created like an ambiance, and it was also just genuinely beautiful, it also made it really hard to listen to the audio, like the actual narration in those moments. And I had to rewind a few times during those times for that.
I Okay, so part of the problem is I listen to this at double speed, and so
Oh my
all of the songs
God.
are like Daffy Duck singing them a
You
little bit.
can't you can't listen to it at 2 times speed.
And so, like, it was a little bit like this is less like gorgeous and more kind of hokey. Like, you know, when Lord of the Rings they stop to sing a Dwarven song, and you're like, okay, that was dorky. Um, like that's kind of how
Too.
I felt about it. I can imagine, especially in text, it would be very pretty. I don't know if the author like offsets it.
I
Um,
think I think she does, only because when I was looking at the preview for the physical text, now somebody can correct us if we're wrong in the chat if you've already read it. I I I bought a signed copy.
Kitty, you got to stop doing that.
I
It's
only
such
did
a
it one other
racket.
time.
It's such a racket. The only value added is that they put ink on the page. It's
But
such a racket.
but it also comes with like some art. It's not been out long enough that they have like an artistic version, like from Loot Crate or what, Like Crate or whatever it's called.
I think it's
Um,
book crate.
a book crate,
I
yeah, is
just
that what
made
it is?
up. I just
Whatever it is, they have like the special edition. So does Barnes and Noble now, but they carry the special editions, and I would love to have that at some point. But yeah, I did buy the hardcover that's signed.
So okay, so okay.
Lumicrate. That's what it's called. I was
That-
close.
Whoa,
Light
whoa.
crate.
We are not. No, no, no. We are not funded by them. This is not a paid advertisement.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
So,
Light crate. Then, but in Latin.
well, whatever crate would like to sponsor us, it can be. I kind of lost the thread of what we were talking about. But yeah, I felt like it would be interesting to go over the pros to see if they hold up more so than they just sound kind of pretty. And that brings us into a really nice segue before we even get to describing the plot, which is that we have a Patreon, which we will
Which
tell you
we've
about
adjusted.
more. Which we've adjusted and made changes to, but you know what? We will go through the plot first because that is kind of a little scheming to go over the monetization before the book. Okay, like I said, two sisters. They live by the Fey world, which is like, I forget what it's called. Arcadia. Where time and space are a little bit more liminal. You know, it's the Fey land. It's a world more of a metaphor, i.e., spinning silver, Naomi Novik's
Yeah,
interpretation,
absolutely.
which we'll talk about a little bit, which I thought was really interesting, or at least the transition between the two is. And that's the thing they talk about. They start with talking about grammar, and in this world, grammar is like not just a metaphor; it's also like
It's magic.
thing.
It's
Right.
no. So grammar is magic, but what I thought was really, it's really cool in the beginning. It loses its place in a weird way throughout the short story. But that being said, I can explain why if we get to that later. But the point is grammar is supposed to be magic, and we use the metaphor of grammar being conjugated and like verbs, like
And I
things
knew
in
what that
language.
meant.
Yes. And when it's conjugated or translated, and you can listen and read the book to hear the true value of this metaphor. But basically, it's talking about how magic changes things, how, not just magic, too, in general, time changes things. But grammar has the capability of showing one form to the next form, which is the metaphor for magic. And we also have something called the professors, which are these willow trees. And they kind of filter the magic in some ways. It's because it's all nature and everything. And then
And it's also described as they're not professors in the teaching sense. They professed something. I think the story is that they were people at one point. Right,
yes.
yeah, and so they professed and they became these trees and their roots
The professors.
Yeah, and then there's the river itself, which is kind of fey-y. And
Which is,
these.
oh,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and the professors, what a great play on words that matches the rest of the novel. It's because
Yeah, I
you
like
think
that.
professor, grammatarian, we're using these words, oh, scholarly, but it's not that. It's the profession of the words, of the grammar, of the love, or through whatever magic.
Yeah, and especially when they were talking about the magic system and conjugating, I thought, wow, conjugating, giving different forms like of a verb in an inflected language as they, vary according to voice, mood, tense, number, and person, is what I thought when I heard the word conjugate. And so I just think that's, important to.
I would agree. And then
The
also
joke
we
is
have,
that I'm reading a definition of it.
oh,
I'm pretending I actually came up with it. I used that
oh,
joke before, but I think it's a funny joke, so I'm going to reuse it here.
oh
The
my
veil has
God.
been wiped away. I'm no longer the Wizard of Oz. I am.
Meanwhile, I just like assume you're really smart all the
Well, you
time,
weren't
and I'm
paying
just
attention
like,
for half a second.
yeah. But
um,
also, we have
Go ahead.
grammatarians, which are basically witches and wizards, the equivalent of people who can harness the grammar and create magic, or like basically musicians to an instrument, which also fits for the theme. And that's like the big unique parts of the story. I think is the terminology and usage of what magic is and how magic works. But besides that, even how magic works isn't unique. It's just the terms for it.
I I thought it was interesting at first, and then it became a little bit more of a magic system
Yes,
instead of a
correct.
magical element, and I was like, this is less interesting, but it's still kind of interesting. Like I still think the book, it's clever in how
It
it
is.
does it a little bit. And I mean, one thing one of our patrons, Miss Ali Snow, said was that they really would have liked to see this as a full story. They tend to not like short stories,
Oh, I
and
love
like
short
that's kind of
stories.
how I do too. I think there's some really great ones. We read a little bit of for our, we've actually read quite a few for our critique
We have
streams. Hills Like White
Hills Like White
Elephants,
Elephants.
The Sand Kings, which is a
Yeah.
little fun
Oh,
short.
that was so good.
The one about the girl and the devil who shows up in a car. I forget what
Oh,
it was called.
where are you going? Where have you been?
Yeah, that was so creepy and weird.
I'm so
Um,
glad I got to introduce that.
it was really cool. I liked it. It was very liminal. But there's things like I do like short stories, but in this case, it felt too much like of a snapshot of a novel
I could see that. I could see that.
condensed. So to me, but we'll talk about that more as we get there. Um,
Well, while
I
on the
think those are
topic,
most of the main elements of the story.
um, yeah, if we, I'll give you a small synopsis, and then I want to mention something in regards to what you just said. Remind me if I forget that it has to do with short stories. Um, so,
Say go now. This is going to be a kind of a shortish review anyway, because like
okay,
short
I was
story.
just going to provide the essential rest of the synopsis. Two sisters love each other lots, many music and family, big, interesting romantic interest that's human, not very cool, very fishy. And
No, I think you mean evil white man marches into the story and is
correct.
straight. My God, that's very much
No,
how
that's
he
not the way
read.
it comes across, really.
It comes across that as a
Not to
straight
me.
man, a very straight
As
man.
a straight woman who
I'm kidding
appreciates
somewhat.
the gay and queer and so on and so forth, like as in like in stories, like I love gay fiction, not, but the thing that I don't like, so I
Okay,
am
just
bigoted.
really quickly, I have to not be canceled. I'm kidding somewhat. I just felt like a stock character of mustache twirling to me. It was like, okay,
Yes,
this is
that
such a
is
stock
absolutely
character,
correct.
and I'm like, yeah. But go ahead.
That's absolutely correct. William is not wrong on that front. He is a mustache twirling villain, whether you are Caucasian or not, or straight or not. But the point being is that, yeah, evil, as Miss Sally Snow said, evil
Yeah,
cis white capitalist man.
that's
Absolutely,
exactly what comes off
yes,
as.
yes. But that being said, yeah. So he big bad capitalist white man, which fair enough. And then also like queer romance interest, fairy. Who do you choose? The capitalist angry white man, or the fairy that is a they that is super magical? I know my choice. Personally. And then hijinks ensues and it's a short story and it ends on a happy note. But that being said, that's all I'll give for the plot thing. Going back real quick to short story mode, it's actually interesting. I listened to a interview, not all of it, unfortunately, although it was a great interview with the author, and the author has only ever written short story. She
I would have
has
thought they'd be better at it.
10. Shut the front door.
You read
You
Jojo Martin's
disgusting
short stories, and you're
door
like, oh
to
shit, he knows what
door
he's doing.
salesman. Get off my porch. Get off my lawn.
This is not a charity. That's the new. That's the new slogan of the channel.
I don't care. It's not a charity. I'm not feeling particularly charitable today.
Okay, all right. Go ahead with what you were saying.
But yes, she's had 10 years of or 12 years of experience in short stories. She hasn't published many of them, I don't think, or if she has, she didn't go over it. But the only long version of a story that she's written so far was called something about time. I don't remember. I meant to write it down, but it's she was actually a co-writer with somebody else.
Out of time. In time.
Yeah,
A
it's something
Wheel
about
of-
out of time. No, no, no.
To make it so
It's
funny.
a world out of time or something like that. But some
Time after time.
all right.
When you know that you've smoked, but you did the amount. Time after. I don't know why I'm in it. This is
Oh,
what happens
there
when
it
me
is.
and Katie are. This is how you. Oh, she wrote that.
Yeah, why do you know that one?
Oh, that's super famous. How to Lose the Time War. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is how you. Yeah, we've been getting people saying we should read that for forever.
Yeah, so she's a co-writer along with a guy named Mark
Gotcha.
or something like that. Maybe he's well known. I'm not sure, but again, I'm death of the artist. Whenever I read Max Gladstone. There we go. That sounds vaguely familiar, but I also Gladstone kind of sounds like a name that I could probably mix in with a lot of other names. But yeah, I try to do death of the author every time I read. Like I don't want to know about the author usually, but this short story I feel like I needed to know more about it because I really liked the roots of it.
I kept thinking of the Roots, the band, the whole time.
I don't know that band.
The river has roots with an afro. Okay, so let's go ahead and before we do that, talk about something that I think is a little interesting because this is a book club pick. And the way book club picks happen is that a bunch of people vote in a poll and then we have to read what they decide. But who are these people and how do they get this power?
Oh, okay, I see what you're
Katie?
going for. There are Patreon tiers, guys. You can join our Patreon, which honestly, if you enjoy our material, Will has been thoughtful, kind enough, and I mean Will as in like, because Will's like the ringleader of the show. He's the one that it's his baby, it's his child, and I just go along with whatever he wants. It's because this is just I like doing it, and I don't care about anything else. I just like showing up. So that being said, more tears for Katie to remember now. Yeah, I don't remember.
will
You'll
say-
have to tell me the tears.
Yeah, we recently restructured the Patreon a
But
little
he did
bit.
it so that way it's more accessible, and so that way you guys can participate more. So we'll go for it.
So we now have a lower tier for people who just want access to the Discord. It's cool, fun. It's full of cool, sexy people. I don't know why I had so much trouble saying that. And that tier is basically, it just gets you access to it and you can kind of feel out the community and if you're interested in it. And then one tier above that, we have the official patron tier, which is you get the Discord, but then you're also going to get one exclusive Q&A live stream each month that will only be on the Patreon. So it's questions you guys ask. The three of us will answer them. It'll be a good, fun time. You also gain access to KFC. And no, I'm not just talking about the web.
I hate that it's called KFC. I don't like having my name in it because it feels very narcissistic, but it worked out because somebody made an image and it was very funny because it had chicken in it and I was in a bucket. So
Well, you can
since
thank
then,
Val for that.
Yes, thank
that
you,
is
Val.
Katie's Fiction Corner, which is where she does, as she puts it, ye old writing class. Somebody submits a story. She talks it over with a group of people who are there. It's a live
And
stream. It's like
I'm
once or twice a
officially
month.
Yes, I'm trying to create a regular schedule because as a teacher, I was very irregular with it. There were times where I was doing it twice a month. There were times when I was doing it once every 2 months. So I'm trying to create a proper schedule for everyone. Right now, I am oscillating between once a month to once every 3 weeks. I can't do every other week. I'm afraid I won't be able to keep to that schedule properly, and I want to make sure it's reliable. I am thinking of doing it, as Will suggested to me very smartly, one time during a weekday night, one time during a weekend afternoon, so that way it's more accessible to people in different time zones. So I am in the process of organizing that. I am actually doing that, but it will not come to fruition for at
Yes.
least another week or two.
So basically, this kind of just started as a thing I told Katie to do so she could be like creative in a way that was like really helpful. And so like this is kind of like her baby. This is a thing that like we will do a live stream once a month for the Q&A. The fiction corner is going to be a little bit more fluid.
That's
in
why
terms
we
of the
reduced
schedule.
it. It's because I unfortunately have a day
Well,
job
it was
and it
actually
takes a
more
lot.
because more people could join if it's like
That
that, and
too.
so like it's like oh cool because yeah that used to be at a higher tier. But again, I'm trying to add value for all of you. Above that, we have the book club tier. You guys have heard us talk about it. That's 2 books a month, one of which you guys nominate. And the other thing is now that we are 20 plus critique streams that me and Katie have done, where we look at prose in microcosm and talk about how those work and how they help a story or not. That is now in the book club tier. So if you join, you get access to 20 plus exclusive critique streams that we've done, and you'll get access to a new one each month.
And
We always
apparently
know the
they're
topic beforehand, which is cool. We never decided scrambling the 5 minutes beforehand.
okay. Look, we do have a list, and also if anybody's ever interested, you can always like I can't promise we'll do it, but if you shoot it to us, I mean, we can always take more ideas because what you're interested in is potentially what we're interested in.
Yes, but only if there's attached page numbers. That's
Oh
the
yeah,
biggest
that
problem is
too.
finding the specific spots. But so yeah, that's a lower tier now. We still have the upper tier, Parasocial Darlings. That'll just get you your name in the credits, and if you want to help support a little bit, and then if you want to be a fucking legend, we are going to help you. We now have the Parasocial Legend tier, which is higher than that. I think it's at $25, and that's just if you want to really support the channel because you have a lot of money, excess money in our capitalist bourgeoisie hellhole, and you'll get a verbal shout out. So we are going to be shouting out 3 people. Katie, I want you to put up your fingers as we say them. We got Pie. We got. Hold on, I need to find the thing.
Ooh, no, wait. We've got pie.
We
God
got
damn it.
Pie. Pie is actually very cool. I like Pie a lot. He's dope. We also have Jennifer. Jennifer has been here forever. She also is really dope. A little quiet. You could speak up, but you now have spoken with your support. And Stephen Allworth, who actually also has been here for a really long time, though not too.
Steven, thank you.
I don't know him too well, but yeah, those are 3 people in our community who are supporting us. So you'll get a shout out like this if you're in the Parasocial Legend tier.
So you three, Ballin, thank you very much for supporting. It genuinely does help. It's because this is Will's baby, like I said. So thank you.
Yeah, and we're trying to spread the money around a little bit too now.
To make it
It's-
ethical and appropriate, which it's all, again, Will. I am in the passenger. No, I'm not even in the passenger. I'm barely in the passenger seat. Will is in the driver's seat. So this is all Will's ethical approach to being a reviewer, and which is another reason why he won't review certain books. It's that we get asked to review. It's because it's not ethical in nature. And while I'm like, capitalist hungry, give it to us, baby, he's just like, oh no, I would like to have no bias, and so you can at least appreciate that.
That, and also I don't like reading bad books, even for the algorithm. Okay, all right, back to the book. So a lot of people, again, have talked about how melodious it is. I thought it was okay in that respect.
Going back to the book, by the way.
Yes, going back to the book. I think my problem with it is really that it's a short story, and so there's a lack of depth of feeling to me.
There's no meat to chew on. Yes.
Yeah, and the resolution comes too fast. We'll talk about it a little bit more towards the end to avoid like spoilers, but it's like, and then they just did a thing. There's a lack of like complications or sacrifice on the way. So
I would agree.
Kind of like, and so like it's kind of like a fun retelling, but it's not super fun and it's not super
I would redefine that phrase, or I would say that differently. I would say it is a lot of fun, but there's no dramatic meat to gnaw on for a minute, so that way the emotions become heightened, so that way when the resolution hits, it's a lot more satisfying. Now sometimes I think a lot of authors go overboard, and there's a lot of like I don't want to say, there's a lot of trauma saturation. That's a different word for porn. There's a lot of trauma saturation, and it lingers on it to a point. I've just seen that in a lot of the romantasy books and stuff like that we've read,
God.
where it lingers to the point where
They're
you're
a
like,
hot face and 2 or 3 traumatic events in their past.
yeah, and it's kind of like disgusting in a way, which is why I think of the word pornography. It's because like it's overt, it's too much, it's not artistically displayed in a way, or usefully used. This book does almost the opposite, where, like Will said, it doesn't linger on it at all. And in some ways, that's very satisfying and clean, and for a short story, it works really well. But at the same time, there are so many unique and novel. There's a lot of novel concepts in this, no pun intended. That it kind of feels like a flop in that way. I could see how people would think that.
Yeah, I think for me it just kind of did. It was like, okay, we're getting somewhere, we're getting somewhere. Oh, we're already there. Was kind of my feeling about it. And then there's
Fair
a
enough.
weirdly gory ending. You're like, that was a lot. Okay.
That's all
And
ballads, so that works into the theme.
yeah, but it still felt it still I didn't really mind. I just thought it was a little bit out of left field.
I mean, I
Uh,
would not disagree. I think the only reason it works is because of the murder ballad background. If they hadn't premised with it, it would have felt very strange indeed.
yeah, I agree. Sorry, I'm reading a thing. Related to this, not unrelated. Okay, so do you want to
Hmm.
describe a little bit more about what happens? Because
Yeah,
what happens is the two sisters, we have Isabel with a Y, who is like
Isabel.
the second, the less dominant of the two twins.
It's not twins. She's 2 years younger.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
sisters.
yeah. They're really close in age though, so they are. The way they are portrayed wouldn't be surprising if you assumed they were twins. But Isabel is 2 years younger than her elder sister, not scissor, sister. Sorry, I'm so sorry. But anyway, their older sister Esther. Esther.
Which I thought
And
was interesting because that's a very Jewish coded name. And like this takes place in a very kind of like
yeah, but she's mixing, I think. I really do.
you might be
It's
right.
because she's Lebanese. I don't know what religion she follows, but she's from that Freudian slip much, Maximilian said. I know, I'm so sorry. Point is though, is I think there's a bit of a mixing here, including the graphic for the front page. I don't know why, but it strikes me as, I don't know why. It just strikes me as, I don't actually think it does. I think it's just her name. Anyway,
It could be her trying to have a more expansive view, or just
yeah.
not. I mean, that's one of the
Where
things.
stories are universal type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe I was primed by Spinning Silver a little bit to be like, oh, Jewish
She's
people are a
doing,
real ethnic group, and this isn't Freudian slip, more like, oh, Freudian. I'm gonna have to use that more
yeah, that's
often.
funny.
But anyway, so yeah, Isabel is the more like
She likes
she's the younger
murder.
sister.
She's the younger sister. She likes murder ballads, and she likes she keeps her eyes, as she's described, towards Thistletown. I don't remember, but it's the human village that is nearby. Whereas Esther is more of, she likes riddle songs. She likes solving riddles, and she keeps her eyes towards Arcadia, the realm of Fae. Um, and so, even though they are incredibly close and they grew up close and they are still close, even as young women, there was a certain point where they started diverging in their interests, which it specifically addresses towards the beginning. So they are different, but they are incredibly close, which is a difference from the two sisters tale.
And it's specifically pointed out, like in text, that like usually sisters in these stories are shitty because of patriarchy, but these sisters
Yeah.
are cool, and they always want to be around each other. And they were talking about it, and they sung to a tree a song only the other one would know. Which like I think is nice.
Oh, I loved it. Thank God it's so refreshing not to have shitty sisters. All I kept thinking about was A Court of Thorns and Roses or whatever.
God, that book is so hot with Rysand.
Oh my God. But all I could think about is how her sisters were so awful to her, and it didn't make any sense to me. It's because I feel like not to say that hardship wouldn't drive a family apart, which could happen. And there's nothing wrong with sisters hating each other.
ACOTAR doesn't have the mix of love and hate that siblings have. Her sisters are just kind of shitty, and then just kind
very
of like, oh wait, they're
one-dimensional.
not shitty. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not the same. And so the what happens is that they got stuck in Arcadia at one point, the fairy realm, and then got out as children. And
Real may I really quickly summarize that story? I think it's
we
important.
don't learn about it till later, but yeah, you can.
Oh, yeah. Do you want to elaborate on it later?
You can do it now. I don't think it's super important, but you can do it now.
It's not. It's important for plot device. But yeah. So it's alluded to at the very beginning of the book, and obviously spoilers. So stop here if you do not want to enter. But when it's alluded to at the beginning, and then it goes into it right before the important point that it uses that point for, which is very direct and I don't think overly crafty, but also very succinct and useful. So basically the two girls, they're during a party supposed to go feed the chickens or something, and one of the chickens gets loose, and so they chase it, and they're like 5 and 7, I think, if I remember correctly. And so they were really young. And they accidentally go into Arcadia. They don't mean to. They go past these borderlands that they're not supposed to cross because they're too young to recognize it. And they get in there and they get lost. And they're like, well, if we follow the river, we'll get back to where we go. So they're following the river and they keep going. And they know not to eat any food or water there. And so at one point, they're about to get into an argument where the younger sister is like, I'm so thirsty. I need to drink the water. And then this witch, who doesn't call herself a witch, but is obviously a grammatarian at the very least in this world, I think her name is Agnes. I just don't remember.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. But she comes across and she's like, oh, little uns, what the heck happened? Did you mean to come in here? And they're like, no. And she's like, well, I'm on my way to this windmill I had a dream of. And the windmill wants like an owner. And a windmill? A windmill. I know. I say windmill. It's my accent. It's fine. So I know I have a southern accent.
Is this like
sometimes.
nightmare versus nightmare?
I don't say nightmare.
Some people say nightmare, so I was just...
Yeah, but it's the same thing, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
But anyway, so she's like, I need to go inhabit this place, and I can't take any time off because time is wonky here. And the windmill would be like really irritated. I saw your eyebrows. Would be really irritated if or its heart would break, is what is what she said. She's like, but I can help you. So first trick, don't follow the river, follow the flow of the river, because it always flows out of Arcadia. And then she was like, number 2, start singing. You guys can sing, right? And then they start singing, and that's when the witch realizes, oh, I know who this family is. I know who these people are because they're in some way touched by Arcadia for living so close to it. And so they sing, and when they sing, a light path comes up. She does a little spell thing, and they sing their way out, and they make it back to their parents, and no time has barely passed at all, which is wild for them because it felt like forever for them. And that's the story of how they got lost in Arcadia. And from that since on, Esther has always had kind of an eye trained on Arcadia, whereas Isabel has always had both eyes not in that direction, because it kind of makes sense also in a child psychology kind of way. It would make sense, but it's kind of interesting. It's because for Esther, it's probably a magical experience where nothing went wrong, whereas for Isabel, it was probably nightmarish in a certain way. It's probably nightmarish for both of them, the way it's portrayed, but in a weird way that kind of makes sense to me. that the younger would find it more fearful and the older would find more mystical in it. I don't know why.
I don't know. It's interesting because I think it could also just be a slight deviance in their personality, and this was kind of like a wedge that changed their personalities much
Correct.
farther. Because
Yes.
Isabel, in general, is much more like you get the sense much more like stay at homey,
Yes.
and partly this is because what we find out is that okay, so I don't actually remember exactly how this happens, but there is a
Ask.
fairy that starts
Rin.
hitting on. Yeah, there's a fairy called Rin who starts hitting on Esther and is like, "Sing to me, human. It's so beautiful a sound." And Esther is like, "You're hot. I will sing to you."
Okay, that is not at all what necessarily happens. What William means to say is that, and by the way, the narration of this is very dreamlike, so it does kind of go in and out of time. It doesn't go always chronologically, although for the most part it does. It focuses on one specific part of their life while summarizing a lot of it. So it summarized their meeting. What happens is that
I'm going
Esther.
to be broadly correct, but go ahead.
Yes, Esther. I'll make it quick. Esther goes out into the modal lands, I think is what it's called,
Yeah,
and
they're like the
and
in between Arcadia and Rio liminal space.
exactly, which I think is a wonderful thing to linger on in a poetic sense, which she does, the author does, and I love that. But anyway, moving on past that. So she goes out and I forget what it is, but she gets caught in the rain and basically she sings underneath a tree. And then when it's done or whatever, there's a silver bracelet with stars etched into it. But she's been taught not to take gifts from the others, from Arcadians, because it could be a gift for somebody else. And if you take it, you don't want to anger it for somebody, like for taking it from them. And so she leaves it and she walks around it and she leaves. Then once more, she comes out again and she sings to a snowy owl that has prey in its grasp, and she sings about it's about an owl, the owl child or something like that. I haven't heard of the song before, and then a goblet, a silver goblet, is left on a rock, and it like, and it has the silver bracelet in it, and she's like, again? She's like, but I shan't take it. And then finally, she wanders into the forest, and she sees a beautiful woman. And she has long silver hair or white hair or whatever, and she's playing a harp, and the harp is really gorgeous. And Arcadians, one big thing is Arcadians cannot sing. They cannot sing, but they can play. And so their version of singing is playing. And so she's playing the harp, and that's when they have their first real interaction. And Rin is like, yeah, I talked to which Esther person, or not Esther, excuse me, Agnes person, and she suggested that I take a form which I can communicate with you with. And I'm like, oh, you don't say. But whatever.
So this is what's interesting, and I think something that the book is kind of trying to comment on, which is that Rin in the narration is always used they them pronouns for, but takes the shape of a woman in.
At least at the beginning. Towards the end, you're not sure what form they take.
Yes, and to be honest, it's also one of these things that I thought was a little clever because it's like Rin didn't so much be like, oh, I'm a woman, as like I need to have a shape that has a voice, and I guess this is just the one I picked. Like, you know what I mean? There's okay, so this is a little bit complicated of a topic, and as a cis man, it's a little difficult, so I'm going to try to dissect it well. But usually in fiction, there's kind of the trope of like.
You take the form that you feel most strongly towards. Is that what you're?
Well, I mean, there's that, but also just in terms of like fairy tales, or like Zeus showed up as a swan to seduce someone, or this non-corporeal, genderless being shows up and takes the form of a human, and there's sort of a like. Okay, theoretically, if we went into the logic of this, they're a genderless being, but like. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. We know this is just more steps. We know it's really a man or a woman, and this. Oh, is just
I see. Yeah, I've seen a lot of authors do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of authors and a lot of people throughout folk tales and history have done that. They just don't.
Where there's one more gender that it seems to lean towards.
Yeah, and it's kind of like one of these things where it's like they understand the possibility of being neither gender, but like they're not really able to think about it that way, or don't want to think about it that way.
I feel like she did a successful job with this one in particular after this initial scene.
Yeah, no, I think she does in general. I think again, I think she's kind of winking at that by using the they pronouns
Yeah.
of like, no, this is the shape that Rin took, but it's not. Rin is not a woman,
Yeah.
or does not see herself as a
Rin's a
woman,
snowy owl, or frost, as she
or a
describes, as
whisper
Esther
on the
described,
wind,
frost on
or a
the
storm in the
grass.
sky, or
Yeah,
frost on the
exactly.
grass. Yeah, exactly. Like they are a non corporeal, genderless being who just took a shape. And even then, I in my brain, I kind of imagine them as very androgynous looking,
Me too.
like woman, but like
But also man.
androgynous. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like but
In
like not.
particular, the man part that really got
Mhm.
me was at one point in the novel, Rin becomes very angry. And when they became really angry, they took on the form of like a snowstorm. And it came across as not necessarily masculine or feminine. Like it wasn't, there were no verbs and there were no adjectives or anything that,
Mhm.
or whatever that described it specifically as in it was a feminine force of anger or a masculine force of anger. It was
Right.
literally just anger. And so I think it was incredibly powerful, this androgynous thing.
It
It
was almost
really did
biblical.
come. What's that?
It was almost biblical in the way that God appears in the
Yes.
Bible, and you're
Yes.
just like, oh wow, that's just some other. Uh, Chris M says, "Yep," and I imagined an androgynous anime look. The
Fair
author probably
enough.
could have done more with that too, in terms of like sometimes Rin looks a little bit more one gender or the other, but it kind of goes back and forth.
I
But I
think
think
it
that's
makes
kind of
it
what she
better
was.
that it doesn't linger on it because then it's
I
in your
think
mind.
yeah, no, it's true. And again, I think the use of they pronouns is very specifically like
Oof,
this is what
yes.
I'm saying, what you should notice. Because there's this habit, and like because some people call this book like a sapphic book or
I wouldn't say that.
yeah, it's not. There is a habit to treat non-binary people or AFAB non-binary people signed female at birth as like lesbians, but with more steps. Like they're kind of what I let them mostly like yeah we'll let them have their little like a differentiation, but like where on the butch to femme scale are they? They're butch plus. Like there's a little bit of that feeling often, and people don't really understand that it's like it's not just that you don't feel you don't feel comfortable with like female presentation and body
And of
dysmorphia and
course,
all that. It's like you literally just don't feel like a gender or a sex, and like that I think is difficult for people to conceive of,
well, it
and
is
so they kind
especially in
of
our
like
culture.
yeah, because it breaks a fundamental way that we think about the world. I mean,
Well,
we were
language. It's written
yeah.
in English. So, like, we are, unfortunately, and I would like to also just specialize to
Spanish
anybody
is
that.
even worse because all objects are
Oh,
gendered.
yeah. Yeah. So, like, two things. Number one, I want everybody who's listening to know we are not specialists in this field. We are not gender studies people.
I'm a
I don't
whitish
have,
man.
I don't
I
have
can speak
a,
with authority on these things.
he's kidding. Do not take that seriously.
I've spoken quite extensively with Angry Otter, a member of our Discord, about
Which
this, who is non-binary. Shout out Angry Otter, you actually do a ton of work. We really
yes, you
appreciate it.
do. And thank you very much for your help recently. But that being said, what I'm trying to get at is if you feel some sort of way about the way we're talking about this, I want you to keep in mind that we're talking from our hearts, from our experience, and there is no like anger or negativity towards anything. It's because I feel like we're going to get comments on that. So I just want you to know this is just from our experience and this is what we know. And if you would like to share your knowledge on certain things and what your experience has been, please be free to do so. But I really don't want to see comments in the comment area saying, well, you don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, no shit. We don't. We don't. But we're talking from our experience, okay?
I mean, I think if you would like to be like, oh, that doesn't make sense to me because of this, that, and the other, I
Go
think
for
that's
it.
fine. But I
You
would
do
I
it.
would try to speak up. If you're going to leave a comment, just speak substantively, because some of the comments we've gotten in the past are
It's just
like,
hate.
well, it is also just like, you need to talk to queer people more, and it's like, okay, but whomst? Like that's such a nothing of an argument. That's such a I want you to
Also,
conform to what I think, and
in a
not
certain
have
way,
to.
not that I'm deep into queer culture, but I'm definitely not normally straight. Like I'm wiggly.
You're more
So
like Pan, which would kind of be what you could describe Esther as in this book, because she
that's what
is
it seems like, yeah.
attracted to Rin. I mean, there's a certain extent to which, much in the same way that you don't have to be gay to have gay sex, I think there's a way that you could say
Yeah.
that Esther has whatever orientation she has, but she loves Rin, and like that, her identity and what she does, I don't necessarily think are tied at the hip.
Yes,
And
exactly.
especially in this story where it's not really like we don't really know if Esther is attracted to anyone else,
Milady.
or
Look at, did you see Milady?
what? What's the T, fam? Hey, Lenny, she made it. And it's
Yeah.
our other host. But yeah, so I mean, I think that's just something worth talking about, and something I think that again it kind of plays into the way that gods and incorporeal beings are often gendered when they come into a human realm, and in a way that is not. Before we kind of broke down this gender binary, they still had to kind of fit into the box.
Yeah,
And even if the author would say like they're technically not, it'd be like wink, wink, but we're going to use the you know
the things that we already
she,
know the rules
hers,
to, or
he, his,
into,
yes.
yeah, in order to understand what's going on. Yeah, and that brings me back to your point that you kind of made, or
Angry Otter says Will is speaking for the queer community and
will you always grain of salt, grain of salt. That's all I have to say.
I mean, I don't think I have to be part of the queer community to talk about the themes in a book or even social concepts.
No.
And I think what listening to the queer community really should mean is like educate yourself on the topic and then speak about it, and then also be open to
Just
other
discussion of
people.
your,
Like
yeah.
I speak very authoritatively, but like sometimes I'm literally just like, well, these are my thoughts initially. What are your thoughts? Kind of a
Yeah, that's
discussion.
always yeah. Anyway, so I just want to save some grief. But anyway, that being said, also we get the we get the.
Mimic says, "Oh, Will's talking about gay sex. Everything is
normal." She even said that in her like little accent too.
That's funny. All right, go ahead again.
But yeah, no, but she's also the author. I mean, also conformed. She's stuck. As we all are to some degree. We're stuck in the what's the word? The not confirmations. The conformity. We're stuck in the conformity of whatever language has to define these things. It's because language defines reality, which is a wonderful.
What a nice tie back to Grammarly.
Exactly.
The sponsor of this video. Have you ever wanted to write something and not be sure about your grammar?
Grammarly is not a sponsor. For the love of God.
It would be a great tie-in, though.
It would be. But that being said, especially with this book, but that being said, like, being stuck in the conformity of a language, it does make it difficult to write concepts, or going beyond writing, just being different. It really sucks. And so I think this author did a really good job, to bring it back to the book, I think this author did a really good job, especially in such a short amount of time, in establishing a really clear, like, I feel like she did such a successful job at really creating a they. They truly felt like a they.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the author, again, is doing that very explicitly.
Yeah.
So what happens is they, both in, by which I mean Rin and they, as in the two
Esther.
of them, and Esther, like they get like closer over time. Rin will come when Esther plays.
Well, I forgot to mention at the end, because one of our commenters did mention it. What happens is upon the third meeting, which again, everything happens in threes in fairy tales, so that makes sense. Let me turn off my alerts. What happens is Esther's like, why did you leave me these things? Or actually, what actually happens is Rin is like, why did you not take my gifts for your song? And then and Esther's like, dude, I just sang them for myself. They weren't for you. And they're like, well, no, like I want to remember them. And she's like, well, I can teach you the song lyrics. They're not hard. They're very well known. And then she starts singing, and then Rin's like, oh my God, stop singing. Stop, you're giving me more presents. Which is such a fun concept for cultural differences. And Rin is just like, no. And it's like speaking with a riddle, which of course works for Esther because she loves riddles. And so she's just kind of like, Rin ends up saying, like, no, I don't care about the lyrics. I care about your voice singing those lyrics. And so Esther's clever enough to say, well, teach me how to play the harp. And for those harp lessons, I will sing for you. And so they come to an accord, which works really well for fairy, of course, because deals are always important. You don't just give gifts for free. And so
I would like to see that concept tied back into the Grammarly magic
Yeah.
conjugation of like why? What does that mean? Because if one of the things we learn is that like when things translate in and out of Arcadia, they're different.
They're translated differently.
Right, they're translated differently, like time, for example. And so, like, I just would have liked to see, like, okay, exactly how does that play into it? Because, again, I always think of Spinning Silver and, like, how that was a world where, like, the reason the
Technicalities
fairies
mattered.
can't lie is because when they lie, that changes reality. Like, reality is
Yeah.
We live in the land of metaphor and they live in the land of, like, literalism, essentially.
Yeah. So there was more world building, more technicality within that. There were lines.
And so, like, that was kind of just an interesting exposure of, like, and so, like, I would have liked to see that a little bit more here. She'll do something kind of interesting with the concept later, but.
So, anyway, they've grown up. They're young ladies. Esther, obviously, we've defined her interest, but what we haven't defined yet is that there is a suitor, a male suitor, whose name I literally deleted from my brain. For some reason, unfortunately, want to call him Bamblebee, but that's not it. That's from another fairy book.
He's like called like something with a G.
Somebody in the chat, I'm sure, will correct us.
I'm sure Chris M knows. Chris remembers everything.
I know. Frickin' steel trap of a memory. But yeah, no. So there's this other. I want to say Peter. I don't know why. I don't know if that's right. But anyway. No. But anyway, he actually owns a bridge. Pollard is the last name. Good job, Miss Sally Snow. Okay, so last name Pollard. Anyway, Mr. Pollard owns a bridge, owns land nearby, and there's this little aside about marrying in the family, in the Willow family. That's not their name, but the Hawthorne family, which is Esther and Isabel's family. And Mr. Pollard really wants to marry Esther, but the thing is she doesn't really want to marry him because he's gross. His hands are clammy and cold. He is pushy and overly familiar. He very much talks like a capitalistic man, even though he doesn't actually talk like that in the book. Do you want to say something to that?
I mean, he's totally that stereotype of like, what if we joined our lands together so we got more money?
Very Pride and Prejudice coded in a weird way.
Yes, exactly. Yes, it's very Jane Austen-y, the cad. But after we figure out that, like that one, the priest who's her cousin, I forget the name. It's very kind of like that kind of a feeling, and it kind of annoys me just because it's such a broad character.
Yes, correct. He is, and it kind of fits the fairy tale mode for him to be that shallow, but at the same time, it doesn't provide any unique characteristics or creativity for his characterization that might stand out more.
Or the themes of the story. Like,
correct.
That's the other thing, is the story is actually, because he is such a large presence of... Okay, so this is a short story. So each scene is more of a percent of the story
correct.
than it would be in a book. And so he actually is a lot of this story, by percentage.
Just pure
and so
saturation, yeah.
Yeah, and so by being such a nothing of a character, he takes up a lot of time and doesn't add anything thematically.
Yeah, I really do wish he was maybe just a tad bit more unique. He didn't have to be crazy unique, but he just... He's it doesn't help make the story more dynamic. And I feel like the story, while you might say, is coded to not be too dynamic because it is in the code of a fairy tale and a short story, at the same time, it does water down. It waters it down.
Yeah, and it just kind of... It waters down.
Yeah.
That's very clever, Katie.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so it's just like one of these things. So like he writes bad poetry, and he tries to he's trying to get Esther on the marriage train. And the one point I did like is that at one point Isabel is like, yeah, I would like somebody to write me poems. He's not that bad. And so for a second I thought we were going to get the like, oh, Esther doesn't like him, but that doesn't mean he's a bad person. He just comes off wrong to her.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah, and instead the story is, no, Isabel is just a little bit weaker than Esther. Is kind of how it's
Correct, which is a
coded a
little
bit.
frustrating. I thought it was looking through life through a different lens originally, but that's not what it is. Pollard is definitely a piece of garbage. So
Hmm.
anyway, you know that that's happening. She's not into it. Wants to marry or wants Rin to invest more into the courtship that's already been happening, so that way she could introduce Rin to her family and all that jazz. And so the next big scene we really get is actually a market scene after a lot of summarization and such, and very beautiful prose. And in this market scene, what we learn is that they sell their willow stuff, and they're like, their family is wealthy because they are rich in magic, but they are also from like the country, so it feels more authentic. And all that stuff. And so they just sell it for the heck of it because they want more individuality. And also, it's probably to socialize a bit. So it kind of makes sense to me that they're like, oh, we'll take what are, because as they say, they kind of wholesale their stuff. So people come to their land, take the stuff, and then they buy it and such. But it kind of makes sense for them to go and like socialize and be like cute little young women and like selling pretty versions of their stuff and so on to more localized people rather than wholesale. So that way it's in smaller batches. And what
Which
we
is
learn,
something he talks about specifically. Pollard is because what happens is at the end he's talking to Esther about getting married. And he's like, "We could put our two willow farms together, and that would be more money." And she's like, "That's not how it works. There's not magic on your land." And he's like, "Yeah, but authenticity is the magic involved."
and it's not even that though. I don't know if you remember, but she says there's barely any willows on your land. Your
Hmm.
land only barely like skirts our land with that magic or with that grammar. And so she's like, you don't have anything. You don't, and so this is where you learn his true intentions. What happens is he comes up to them, flirts. Esther's obviously very irritated by his presence. He's like, "I'll come back later. I really need to talk to you, Esther." And she's like, "Whatever." And Isabella's like, "Why can't you give him a chance? Like, I would love for someone to just like me." And then we get a really important line where Esther says, "Demand more, Isabel. Demand more." And I thought that was a very powerful little speech. I won't try to quote it because I don't remember it, but it was really
Hmm.
good. I liked it. And I thought it showed a lot of sisterly love, which I loved. Because it was almost so passionate that I was like, like, she's obviously not, it's not incest. She's not in love with her sister, but there's so much passion injected into the scene that you're like, wow, she loves her sister. And
I thought it was one of these things where like it's a nice scene and I like it, but it's also a bit like this is somewhere where some nuance could be added in terms of like there's a very
mm,
similar scene in like Pride and Prejudice between Elizabeth
oh,
and I forget her ugly friend.
uh, uh,
Uh,
yes, I know
where
what you're talking
she's
about.
like, you would marry. Elizabeth goes to the ugly friend and is like, you
You'd
would
marry as
marry
low
this
as that?
guy, and he's
Yeah.
like, she's like, dude, I want my own house. I don't want to be a burden on my parents. I'm fugly and old. I may be paraphrasing somewhat.
No,
And
but
it's
that's the
like this
gist.
moment of Jane Austen being like, hey, like there are reasons people marry other people they're not necessarily in love with. Like, you need to think about shit. And like this
There was
could have
no
been more
nuance to
of
that.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting.
Well,
Go ahead.
I think it has more to do with the fact that Pollard has no nuance himself.
That's the thing is that so Miss Ollie Snow says a similar scene which says, to be honest, I didn't think Isabel brought a lot to the table either. This is really Esther's story. So I think there's two things about this story. One is that thematically there isn't really a theme, but at the same time it's very focused and knows what it wants to be. And the two things are a little bit at a collision point because like what does Isabel thematically bring to the story? Not much. Like if the theme is like
The root of family. The river has roots. So it's like the root, she's the root that Esther will come back to. It's because family is very important. But what's funny, though, is that mom
but
and
is
dad
that
are
like
barely mentioned.
yeah, and one route will support another route. It's not like
Yeah, I know
Esther
what you're
goes away
saying.
and finds that the whole time Isabel was like
A
it's like
promise is a
a
promise. Things can be translated. A one love can be translated
see.
for another. I
I
don't
think
know.
that would be really interesting if a promise could be translated, like either good or bad. That would
Yeah.
have been a kind of a cool theme
Well,
because we don't
in a
think of
way,
promises that way.
that does happen, but not in a. I agree. I see what you're saying. I see what you're picturing, but it does technically happen.
Yeah, Alice Snow says Isabel's job is not to be the evil, jealous sister from the original story. I do think it's one of these things where the author set out with
The
the idea
inversion
of like, I'm
itself.
going to invert this story, but then he didn't really play into the actual themes and plot. But yeah, so and Pollard's. Did we already go over the part where? Yeah, we went over the part where Pollard's like, "Haha, marry me."
Well, yeah. So anyway, what happens is during their market day, after that happens, Esther comes across Rin actually in disguise, selling eggs, and it's because Agnes is actually gifting eggs to the Hawthorne family, and also has requested that Esther and her sister sing a specific song during because it's to thank Arcadia and such and everything in nature for their givings and everything. So that's a big thing. And so requested to sing a specific song, blah, 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 and that they're to meet later that evening. After that, Esther and Isabel talk briefly about the meeting, and Pollard overhears and then confronts Esther while Isabel gives them some privacy because she finds an odd crow. It's her excuse for running off, and that is not the accent they use. And then Esther is given the truth of it, which Pollard's like, let's be honest with each other. You're selfish. And
You're
I'm
selfish,
not.
and I'm not, and I'm gay coded a little bit. So why don't we just have this? You can have your dalliances, and I can have my dalliances. We don't have to love each other, but we'll combine our lands for capitalism.
Wait, you got a gay code from him?
Just a tiny bit. I'm joking a little bit, but the voice done is a little bit of like a non-masculine.
It's a ponce. I think
yeah,
the ponce
a little bit. It's like
it.
a little nasally, and like you could read dalliances as like.
I think that's looking
I'm
too
really
much
just
into
kidding
it.
a little bit. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
really just like
No. Yeah, you're poking fun at like you're not gay enough. So yeah, no.
I try to be funny sometimes, and it doesn't always work. But
your lover is only a
stars.
storm cloud. It's not the same gender. But yeah, no. And then he's just like, and honestly, what I'm really after is I'm after your name. That's really what he's after. He's after the Hawthorne name. He's after the land to expand his potential inheritable land. And he's also after proving for some reason, I mean, not for some reason, it's very obvious why, that his land and his willows on his land versus their willows on their land and their land have really no difference, and that they're equally as magical. And this is actually, you know what's funny is now that I think about it, this is a very Howl's Moving Castle world. They have big cities where Grammatarians are big wizards, and they have different, like, it's all accepted. It's well accepted that magic exists.
Yeah, this is where I didn't like it, because I was like, oh, this is a magic system. Like, I liked Arcadia as this weird thing that kind of warped the world around it a little bit. And instead it's like, no, this is Fantasylandia. You didn't know this whole time. I kind of assumed we were in a real setting, so to speak.
I would, okay, wait, before I move on to what Miss Allie Snow said. Yeah, no, I agree. It seemed very, very, I don't want to say technical, it wasn't. It was like poetic, but also somewhat technical towards the beginning in defining what magic was called and what magic was and how it worked in this world. And so once we got into the thick of it, and it felt more like a Tamlin story where nothing's quite defined, or things change, it felt like there was this really big world, like, again, like a big story world, that kind of almost, it was like too big for its britches, and the britches being the short story mode. But anyway, Miss Allie Snow said, why doesn't Pollard just court Isabel in the first place? Great question.
It's a good question.
I don't know.
Maybe she can't inherit the land? I'm
also,
not sure.
Miss Allie Snow did mention it does take place in the real world because they mentioned London and Exeter.
What I meant is more like it takes place in kind of like a
alternate
like magic is real versus like theoretically this is our world where there's just weird stuff going off away from the centers of civilization. Yeah, and so he basically is like, "Hey, marry me," and she's like, she slaps him. Which
it's because
a strong reaction.
No, it's not too strong. It's because he says, and we wouldn't want to make Isabel unhappy now, would we? Like that kind of thing, where he's obviously trying to blackmail her against her sister, and she's like, how dare you try to use my sister against me? I'll kick your ass if you try to ever utter my sister's name again, which that makes a lot of sense.
Physical violence against men. And then it's normalized and it's viewed as okay, and it's not. And then after that, she goes to talk to Rin and is basically like, "Do you want to get married?" And Rin's like, "Yeah, that'd be dope."
And
And
wait, there is also this subtle thing that happens here where Esther thinks, I really wish Rin loved me for me and not just my voice. It's because the only time that Rin seems to really melt in my presence, which is I think literally the word she uses because Rin's like snow. I said he, she. Did you know? I like struggle. I was like,
close.
Rin. um, but but it's really sweet because throughout the rest of the novel, you realize, or novella, you realize that Rin does love her as her, not just her voice, and that's really awesome.
Yeah,
And
I
it
don't know
never
who Rin.
explicitly
I don't
answers
know
that
who Rin
question.
is, and she doesn't, and they don't really pop off the page. So I was just kind of like, okay, this is
That's fair.
cool.
That's also fair. But anyway, yeah. So Esther's like, look, I would love to go to Arcadia with you, but I love my sister. I want to help my sister raise her kids. I want to be here with my mother and father. Won't you come here for 50 years or whatever until I die? It would be like a vacation for you, is literally what she says, I think. And Rin's like, I thought you would have wanted to live forever with me because I want to live forever with you. And Esther's like, that sounds beautiful, but that's not what I want. And so Rin's like, okay, yeah, let me go put my affairs in order and I will come to the mortal realm and I will introduce myself and we will be married in this for your home, which is wildly loving in my opinion and really cool.
Well, Rin mentions that, Esther makes the case to Rin that like it's kind of going to be like a short vacation for you, whereas
Yeah.
for me to leave my home would be awful. There's also some
Yes.
stuff about like Esther and Rin had talked about like, well, what if we just brought people into our family instead of leaving our family? And it was like a little bit like you're imposing a very 21st century view of family
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
household
I did like that conversation.
on like
Like, why
a
do we have to get
medieval
married?
setting, but like that's kind of the thing that's a bit like I don't think the book. It's one of those things where like by putting it in the past, you're making it a little bit feel a little less real because it feels like she's trying to subvert and be feminist about like, oh, you shouldn't, the woman shouldn't go to the man. The important thing is that the sisters stay together, and you're like, but
Oh, see, it
also
didn't hit me
land
like that
management.
at all.
It
See,
hit me
that
like
didn't.
that. Me it hit me like that a little bit.
That's fair. I could see that, but it didn't hit that. Never even occurred to me. The way it felt is it felt like she wanted to have her cake and eat it too, and so it was more of a selfish want to just be able to exist exactly how things are with no change while having the things that would change you, and so that's
That's
how it
actually an
more.
interesting. Yeah, that could play in thematically
Yeah,
in terms
and
of
so
conjugation.
exactly. So
No,
that's
I'm being serious. I like,
yeah.
yeah, no, that actually does kind of track. Though I would have liked a more explicit.
That's fair.
No,
Uh,
I think that tracks with the ending and what happens.
mhm. Yeah,
That's
I
interesting.
think it works, and I think because it's a novella, that's why it's so quickly, like, rather than fully, like, divulged through multiple discussions or anything like that. But what happens is they have this conversation. Rin is like, all right, and then takes two loops of their hair, makes engagement rings out of them, and they exchange, and they're like, all right, we will meet again, blah, blah. And so Rin goes off to go take care of their affairs, and Esther makes her way back, only to encounter who? William Fishman.
Mr. Pollard, who's like, "Oh, you bitch! I
Yeah.
can't believe you would marry somebody who isn't me." And Esther's like, "Yeah," and he's like, "Okay, well, now I'm gonna drown you." And he fucking drowns her, and I was like,
But you
"That's
know what I did
bold."
like? Yeah, I didn't. I thought this was completely out of place, honestly. But that being said, what I did like is I liked the way he was very, very briefly. It was not lingered on, but it was alluded to that he was panicking and that he
Yeah,
didn't want to do this, but he's like, "This is my chance. This is my chance. This is my chance," and he just starts drowning her.
when I talk about the character having more depth, I mean, like, that's kind of what I mean. I don't even mean, like,
Yeah,
oh, he has to be good. I mean, like, just give me something a little bit
yeah,
more.
yeah,
Panicking, the blood won't wash off my hands. That would be, like, an interesting characterization of him. Somebody
yeah.
who maybe felt pressured into this or,
Well, he
like,
definitely felt guilt afterwards. It's because of the way he's portrayed, and he also has fish scales on his hands. He's like cursed, and so he feels like there is blood on his hands. I think it's very much blown over with the very quickness of the
I don't
narration
even
towards
really
them.
think it's in there much.
Yeah.
It's just not in there much. Right, but the river is like, oh, well, I won't kill you. So it reverses its flow
Which is
and brings
odd.
Esther's body into Arcadia.
Hmm.
And then we switch to Agnes the witch, and she's like just doing shit in the river because she has a mill, which turns water into energy, conjugation.
Yeah, that's
Um,
fun.
there's a lot of little things like that
I
I like.
love that it's called
That's
conjugation. I love that it's called translation. I love that they're using these terms that make complete sense when it comes to magic, and that magic isn't. I just wish it lingered more on magic as a spoken word concept, like, or something like that. I
yeah,
don't know why, just
that
to
like
connect to
words
theme.
themselves have like kind of power
Yeah,
in a poetic sense. And it doesn't quite. It kind of again. It's a
because then
short
why
story.
use
It
the
hints at the idea and then
terms?
doesn't really do anything with it,
Yeah,
which
I
is sort
guess.
of basically. And then she sees a swan coming by and is like, I know that swan. Basically, Esther got turned into a swan. Agnes captures her, and like when Rin comes up being real pissed that somebody killed her.
I loved this scene. I love an angry lover looking for their lover. And Rin came in like a frost storm and was huge and intimidating and black eyes and was like, "Where is she?" Batman style. And I'm just like, love it, love it, love it. And also, in a weird way, it does come across as like, I don't want to say it really actually comes across as masculine, but to me, reading it, it felt very masculine and protective in the protective nature of it because of the brute force of it, I think is what it is. And I liked that because then it mixed the tones, because so far, Rin has been portrayed as a woman in both instances, and then as like neither here nor there, but having that
Mhm.
one little masculine esque brute force vibe, really, yes, angry outer daddy vibes. And so like I really ate that up in that moment. I was like, yes.
I'm less sexist than you, so I think women can be strong without appearing masculine.
Shut the fuck
So
up.
even
Women can be
though,
strong, but it still has a woman tone to it.
well, and to be fair, it's not a woman; it's a fey genderless being.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. Yeah, and she's like, and they are like, oh, we're so pissed, and Agnes is like, cool
Calm
down, bitch.
down.
I
Yeah,
didn't kill
literally.
her. Your lover is still here, but she's different now. You need to
And you need to
not
be
say her
careful.
name. Right.
Yes, and then once Agnes says that, Rin is like, oh, she's been marred, and you don't know what that means, and it never explains, but you can get the gist. Also, as a small side note, Pink Synthetic said, I just looked up the name Pollard, and the fact that it can refer to a tree pruning technique feels
Oh,
fitting.
that's very clever.
She just got drowned. Her body flowed.
Right.
Rin
Rin
has
is
gone
like,
into the windmill.
yeah, and Agnes is like, okay, you can go see her, but you can't say her name because, like, if you do,
It locks
she's
her
right.
into
And what
place.
you kind of get is that like she got sucked into Arcadia, and she is no longer the woman. Like, but she didn't. She did die. She is different now. She is
Yeah.
not able to do the same
It
things or
conjugated,
be the
it
same.
translated her.
Yeah, exactly. One of the things they actually talked about, and we missed this, but it was really fascinating because I think about this concept too, is that time to begin with in the real world is very weird, and that technically us and Italy are on the same day,
Oh, I
but
liked that.
nothing that happens, but like you could never go to Italy today and get there at the same time. So, like,
Exactly. So there's
in the
a
same
there's
way,
a
Arcadia is never really on the same timeline as us, and that's why.
that was a great explanation, wasn't it?
Yeah, I really liked it. I thought it was because it's something I think about too in terms of just how like weird it is that we just how time works. I find it my grasp on reality is real loose, guys. So I find topics like that very interesting, and so I liked how she kind of brought that in and then compared it to Fairyland, which is like, yeah, it's just there's a weird translation in time that happens. Um, I mean, this actually even happens with they had this problem with atomic clocks at one point
Correct. Correct.
where
And
they
also,
realized they were slightly getting out of line, and it's because they're on different time. What was it? It has to do with like mass, I think. No, it doesn't.
I don't remember, but
They
I
were
know
getting
what you're talking
slightly
about.
out of tune because the way time works is actually okay. I gotta look this up because it
Okay,
was
go
really
ahead.
fascinating and I can't remember it for some reason.
No, please. And while you're looking it up, but this is a wonderful way to describe fairy in a very normal way, and it makes sense too. Like just because, what's nice is that what makes it different is that the comparison is to someplace like Italy that's very far away. Well, Arcadia is right next door, but not really. And so it's a really one thing I think this author completely excels at is at defining very hard concepts. And those concepts that might be difficult to explore in fantasy, she is able to translate into more understandable terms. And I really liked that. That's why I think the grammar and this example that William's bringing up, all of that is incredibly successful at doing something I don't feel like I've ever really seen in another fantasy novel. Not that I've read all of them, so maybe there is, but so far it feels very fresh.
Okay, I'm gonna have to look it up later. Maybe leave it in a comment.
Okay.
But there's this thing about how time, because time is affected by mass. Like, there's a thing
Yeah.
about like the fact that they kind of a clock that even that is consistent, the subjective time will change, even like very minutely by like
Yeah.
milliseconds. But yeah, and so one of the things is that she got translated to be alive in Arcadia, and it's mentioned like, okay, you
As a
can't
swan.
as a swan.
Because of her, what was it? Her name? No. What was it? There's a
Oh, she
reason
had
why.
a. Didn't she have a pendant that was a swan?
No, no, it's not that. She had the ring that she was engaged with.
Yeah, and it was this whole thing about like when is a swan not a swan, or when is a woman not a
Oh, when
swan?
it's I don't remember, but it has to do with conjugate like
Yeah,
translation again.
it was like, okay, the easiest thing that the
Oh,
river could do.
the signet
Yeah, that's like a.
of the ring, I
Oh,
guess.
okay, it was a ring. I thought it was a necklace. But yeah, but basically it was like, oh, the thing the river could do is like turn you into a swan more easily because you were semantically closer,
Yeah,
essentially. Which again, I wish more had been done with that. Like the if you think of language as
reality,
reality instead of
which it is.
a societal uh, construct, I think that's really cool. Is like I think that's actually like a really interesting way of looking, and I would have liked
It's
more of that exploration.
I really love this book because of that. Because back when I was in my last year of college, I really wanted to go into linguistics specifically for the focus of that and the psychology behind it. I'll never probably do that because, like, not like in a proper schooling fashion because money. But that has always been something that's really important to me ever since my one professor explained to me, and I don't remember the example anymore, but it was the concept of one of the international students writing a paper and writing the paper with a pronoun for something that is an it, that is an object. And he's like, do I correct? Like, it's the philosophy behind to what degree do you pursue correction on something that is language based versus reality based? And like, if you correct it, how do you explain it and all this stuff? And I just thought that was really cool.
Yeah, it's a very again. I would have liked if it had been tied in more to the character stakes as well, in that the character has to think about the world differently to make the language work differently to achieve some end, and it's not really like that. It's like, well, the river ended up saving you because it could kind of semantically figure out these two things were similar. Anyway, Esther gets turned back into a woman, and they're like, okay, you're kind of stuck here now.
Very
You can,
quickly.
yeah.
Which, can I just say, I thought there would be more of a swan thing going
Mm-hmm.
on for a while, which I would say is the one place I think I might have. I think one of the highlights or the strengths of that might have been allowing Rin to create to formulate a personality for Rin more so, because it would only be them that would be able to talk. And so to allow for Rin to explore their personality with just the swan and how they treat the swan and how that might have altered their love for Esther, which it wouldn't have in the end, that would have been really interesting to me.
Yeah, I think it's something where like it just feels very much like a she wanted to she's like, okay, there are these storytell elements and I need to subvert them.
Correct.
Okay, check. I did the swan thing now. And so but so yeah, so Esther's like, I gotta go back into the world to warn people about Pollard, and Rin's like, you can't, you're dead there. You can't go back. If you do, you'll stay a swan forever. And she's like, oh shit, I that's awful. I promised my sister I would go back. And Rin's like, but there's one wacky idea that might just work.
And before we get into that, I do want to just mention It is during this time that you see the influence of Tamlin. By the way, before she gets transformed back into a woman, Rin must hold on to her while she makes many different forms, and she turns into fire and thorns, and it hurts Rin and burns Rin, and so on and so forth. But by the end, as Agnes is able to transform Esther back into her original self, which is what happens in Tamlin with Tamlin's lover. And then also, as mentioned earlier by one of our commenters, the tale of Tamlin is mentioned twice by the sisters talking about singing. So that is what influence I saw a lot of. But anyway, from that particular, because I mentioned at the beginning, it was between the two sisters, the Cruel sisters and Tamlin. So that is the influence there. But anyway, continue.
Right. And so we go back to the outside world where Isabel and Pollard are going to get married. Pollard wears gloves a lot now. Oh, that's odd. And so they're about to it's their wedding day. They're going to get married. And then Rin shows
Engagement
up.
party. Engagement party. Not that it matters, but...
A nuptial affair, and Rin shows up, and everyone's like, "Oh, you should play something. You have a harp." And Rin's like, "I do have a harp," and she sings a song that's like, "Pollard, Pollard, he's a bad guy," and he's like, "No, he's not." And
yeah, that's exactly what is. No, what happens? God damn it! Is that Rin comes along? They know obviously that Rin is from Arcadia by the way they answer a question, and they're like, "Welcome." And Rin's like, "So I know this is a very like happy affair. However, I've heard, which just works out in their favor. I've heard that the fiance is interested in murder ballads. So here's one." And the harp begins the tune on its own. And then the harp, Esther, via voice, sings about the whole thing.
Yes. I was looking at some stuff.
Yeah.
Some of the comments. Yeah. And Esther and Isabel is like, "I don't believe you. He couldn't have killed people. You're not my sister."
Only my sister would know the one song that she and I made up together. And so she begins to sing it. And then, of course, Esther sings it back. And she's like, "Egad, Pollard." And Pollard runs off. And he's like, "Hey, you'll never catch me now, coppas." And
he's immediately caught. And they're like,
correct.
"We should hang him." And they're like, "No, something worse." So they
make him drink the water.
Yeah, they make him drink the water of Arcadia, which turns him into a tree. And... yeah. Who's still like sentient, and then they're like, "We should cut the tree," and they cut the tree, and the tree bleeds blood. And I was like, "Oh my god, what?"
I loved that. Excessive. It felt very out of place.
That escalated fast.
Well, to be frank, he drowned the sister, so it feels very right, honestly.
I in another story, I'd be like, "Fuck yeah!" In this one, I didn't really care when she died, so I don't really feel like it's that bad.
It doesn't create tension. And because of how quickly it resolves these things, and because there's a lack of tension, there's a lack of resolve in the resolution. Resolution in the resolve. Whatever. Yeah, no, I think the first one was right. And so when that happens, you don't feel... It's the same thing with, like, revenge flicks. Whenever you get a revenge story, I've been watching, like, a absurd amount of horror movies, and a lot of them are revenge-based. And I really need to stop because I'm getting nightmares. But point being, though, is that in the revenge thing, it really matters. Was the wrong that was done over-characterized to the point where it's a caricature of itself?
Is also important, but yes, in terms of whether the realness of it.
Yes, because if it's so bad and everyone's so against somebody, you're just like,
yeah,
that's like too much. It doesn't feel like it feels dumb, dumb writing. And so, but if it's done just right, and then if the path, like in the Count of Monte Cristo, if the path to the revenge is bricked with just the right steps to make each step feel like a powerful or like an interesting inversion of expectation to the point where you finally get to the point of revenge where it feels satisfactory, where you really feel like just desserts have been given, that works. But it doesn't quite feel that way here. It does very much, as Marina Conrad said, fairy tale justice, which it
And it
does feel
also,
like that.
yeah, it feels like one of her check marks, and but it doesn't quite match the story anymore in terms of its
I would
severity.
agree. I would agree.
But it's fine. And then Rin and Esther have to go back into Arcadia, and Rin's and Isabella's like, but I want to see her, and Rin's like, I can't tell you how to get in there because other people want it. And then the story is like, and I can't
That
tell
is
you, dear reader, because you might be one of the
no.
Gestapo. And I was like, oh, this is dorky, but okay.
I did like the little asides from the narrator. I did actually enjoy that here. I think it fit the tone. But and it was very, very like succinct and little and like sprinkled in very few places. But no, what happens is Rin's like
Exactly
okay.
what happened. Well, I said
And
happened.
whispers into Isabel's ear something, and then the narrator's like, but I can't tell you what he told, or what they told, excuse me, what they told Isabel, because we should not know the ways into Arcadia. So anyway, yeah, it wasn't that they didn't tell her. They did tell her a way, or gave her a
Okay,
hint.
all right. I mostly was just like, okay, breaking the
Yes,
fourth
yes,
wall
yes.
here. And so yeah, and so Isabel shows up with her kid later.
A few years later, presumably, and she shows up at the front door of the mill where they're all like convivally engaging in conversation.
Yeah,
And then she's like,
what's up?
I'm here.
And like you get like, okay, the relationship has been conjugated, but it is still the same
Yes.
relationship. Like that's kind
Yes.
of, and it kind of again thematically, the story doesn't really quite come together, but it's pleasant enough. I think overall, I don't think the story is very good in a lot of ways, but like the author is so talented that you can kind of just fall into it and be lulled by it and be like, oh, that was a good time.
I think that the narration, the ambiance or atmosphere she creates, the interesting turn of phrase and interesting double entendre of things. I think the story itself, to a degree, I'd give it like, I think if I were just to randomly assign a percentage of success, I would say the story itself, I would say 65 to 70% successful in its telling. Not in its telling, in its raw nature of like point A, point B, point C, point D. Like it has a beginning, it has an end, it's clean, it's cut. While it could have been elaborated on and everything, I think it's a beautiful, beautiful modern fairy tale.
Okay. No.
William's just a humdrum.
I think if you're the kind of person who likes music in your audiobooks, you'll really like this. I think that's the kind of like a lot of our patrons are talking about how like beautiful they found this and how much they enjoyed it. And like often when I tell people it's okay to disagree with me, I say that, but I have a lot of contempt for them. But in this case, I don't really. I do get it. I do get how like you could find this very beautiful. I just found it kind of boring. And like
I would
I don't
say
feel like the fundamentals of the story really hit.
fair enough. I would say that this is not my top 5 favorite book. But that being said, I want to buy a signed copy. I would like to own this. It's the same thing with Princess Florinda.
You mean you would like to translate your money into the book?
Oh yes.
You want to conjugate cash
in such
for
words.
leads.
Correct. Very very reverse
theme.
Faye. But no, I just think it's an art. I think just like Princess Florinda, I think this is it's the same thing with my one painting I have. I have a painting by a Japanese Brazilian artist that's really going viral right now, and I'm just like, oh, I wonder how much I could get for that painting. But I won't sell it. Plus, I lost the certificate, so it doesn't matter. But the point being, though, is that the art itself, I don't fucking like it. It's so weird. It's not even like I have this really cool art piece. If I can somehow, yeah, there we go. That art, I love. I love this art piece. Now, the other art piece I own by the Brazilian Japanese artist is strange. It's very, it doesn't really, it's not thematic. It doesn't have a central figure as like four central figures. It feels very disorganized. It feels disjointed. I don't feel like it's telling me anything. But the art style itself is so interesting that I couldn't help myself. I wanted to buy it. And so I bought it. And it's the same thing with Princess Florinda and with this book. It might not be something that...
That's Sasha, guys. He heard a noise.
He heard my mother-in-law come in from the front door. But it's not something that I would say is my favorite to eat. It's not a steak dinner, but it is an artistic dinner that I would like to own and be able to re-experience at my discretion.
I think that's true. I think that's... I can get that as, again, this is a unique experience. But yeah, I think that's about it. Overall, how did you guys like this? Leave your thoughts below in the comments. Have you read this? What other fairy
Tales are like
tales
this,
that are
too.
rewritten have you enjoyed? And we love you all, our parasocial darlings.
Even if you're not a parasocial darling.
You are in our hearts.
Yeah. All right. Bye, guys.